The mics were working. Yeah, I'm
Live, we're live, yeah. I don't think you've ever been like that. Can you turn the sound down? Turn the sound down. Yeah, I see that.
So I do have one question. So we talk about the now, uh, and with this on the ballot in March, and you've outlined a lot of the reasons why or why. Uh, what what happens if we don't pass this measure in March? Like what would be our next steps then going forward to address the now?
Yeah, so I think that's a great question. So, and if I may, President Beltram, um, could we work on, we've been working a little bit on this. We'd love to be able to put some of this together and formalize it and present it to the board next Tuesday,
Be great.
at our board meeting on the 20th. So, I think it's a great question. It actually came up at the community information night by a community member. We'd like to be able to put a little more language around that and do some final analysis. We'd love to, we look forward to being able to present that information next Tuesday if that works for you.
That works. Good. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Sears. You have anything else on this? Okay. Any questions from Mr. Sears, Mr. Morrow? All right. Well, next on the agenda are the discussion items for the treasurer, Mr. Morrow.
Thank you. Items 1 through 4 are the typical meeting minutes from the prior month. I ask that the board take a look at that between now and next Tuesday and let me know if you see any issues. Number 5, financial. The first attachment is the one that typically is the most important. That's where we're comparing our year to date to what we thought we would be back in November. You'll see we're pretty close. You know, we're estimating revenues nearly $70 million, and we're within a few $100,000. So we're tracking very well with where we thought we would be. And this is what I do and spend considerable amount of time every month is trying to chart out the rest of the year, and then how does it impact us going forward in the future. And if anything does come up, of course, we would be discussing it at a board meeting and in open session with you all. But as of right now, we're trending where we thought we would be. Number 6, public records log. You'll see that that's caught up and we're up to date. So we've done a good job there.
Any questions for Mr. Morrow?
Maybe you can prepare this for next week. But I've heard some confusion when people are talking about our operating expenses and our building expenses and where did the money come from?
Yep.
That we bought the Kings Island land, you know, if we haven't passed a bond, where did we get that 225,000?
Absolutely.
So next week, could you just explain the different pots of money and how that works? Because I do think there's confusion when we ask for a bond versus a levy, like how those pots of money work.
Absolutely.
Does that
Great
make sense?
question. It does. Yep. Absolutely. Great question. We'll have that ready for next week.
Thank you.
Any more questions for Mr. Morrow? All right. Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the superintendent, Mr. Sears.
Thank you. So I have three items tonight. The first 2 are a little bit different than my normal rhythm in my section. But I want to just take a second, then I'm going to lob this to Mr. Glucky, who's going to give you a little bit of the 101 on these types of things. So as I outlined a few moments ago, just the timing and where we are in our situation, it makes sense for us to start the process to, depending on the outcome of the March 19th issue, that we hit the ground running if it's successful. And so in order to do that, we need to start the process right now to align with work around architectural services and construction managers. And so this is a very normal thing for districts to do. It's proactive to do it early. It's not presumptive. And so there's a difference between those two. We are being proactive so that because our timing in where we are currently. The challenges are here. We want to work to expedite that as quickly as possible. So there are two RFQs that are on the agenda for this evening and that will be voted on next week. The first one is for architectural services, for design architectural services that will actually design the entire project. The next one is a construction manager at risk. Those are both requests for quotes for both of those. What your approval next week will do is it'll give us the ability to start the process. It doesn't commit, there's no financial commitment to that. It's just time that we would spend to prep. If it's successful, we move. If we don't successful, we're out. The district is out nothing. This is very common, very proactive to be prepared in the event. We're trying to expedite and maximize every minute that we have. So Mr. Lucky, can you provide a 101 of the architecture RFQ and the construction manager at risk?
So timing is everything. To refer back to what Mr. Sears was talking about on when things go down and when you can do all these things to get started. So there's requirements of days that things need to be posted for to get back. So there's a lot of legal documentation here, talks about permission to post. So we'll post in the paper for both of these. For the requirement for the architect, it's 2 weeks. But for the CMR, it starts at 30 days. So the first posting for the CMR would go for 30 days. And then we'll do what's called an RFP to request pricing. So we'll work through the process to narrow down that group and then go another 2 weeks, 15 days to drive out the RFP process. So if we were to wait until March 19th to move forward, you guys would approve. We wouldn't be able to approve even at that meeting. So it's just time. And I always refer to time as expensive because nothing will ever go down in price. These services will never go down in price. So it's very important for us to hit the ground running, to be able to do that due diligence work, to figure out where the building's going to go in that, right out the gate. So we're doing work to get classrooms in place for students that are coming, that are here day one. So you'll see documentation on what we need to post in the paper. You'll see resolution to move forward, and then grading sheets for each one of those. Like Mr. Sears said, I'm going to say this and repeat it as many times until we get tired. This is meaningless until the 19th, and we can move forward or make a decision from there. So this just gets that ball rolling for us. That way we're not wasting any days. We don't have time to waste days. We need rooms today. So gets us moving.
As I looked at those, it looks like a lot of them are due back after the election day.
Correct. Correct. So there's processes that'll take place in here with interviews and meeting people and me giving tours of sites to different interested parties to make sure they have all the information they need so that they can get us the most accurate information back for us to make the best decisions.
Now, will you be giving those tours all together at one, or are you going to do it
All together,
Okay.
for fairness sake,
Yeah.
we'll do it all together. That way everyone can hear all the questions that are asked. So I'll create documents. So all this stuff filters through me, questions. I'll create really an RFQ for these vendors as well. That way, for fairness sake, they're all seeing the questions that everybody asks and getting the same answer.
I'll add one thing. I've spent a lot of time with Matt looking at these documents, talking to the district attorney. One of the things that I think is probably new language to the board that we wanted to point out is construction manager at risk. What is a construction manager at risk? So essentially, how it works is we hire the main general contractor for the job, and eventually they'll give the board a price that says, this is your guaranteed price. We're going to hire out all the masonry. We're going to hire out all the electricians, and they'll all be bids and quotes to do everything, but they're in control of all of it. and they're in control of keeping that cost at this level, whatever that comes to after we've worked with architects, commissioning agents, this company. So it's a common way for buildings of this structure to be built, and it provides the district with some risk reduction because they're telling us that this is the ceiling for this project. They build in they build in contingencies. They take on a level of risk, and we're paying them to take care of everything as far as making sure that things get done on time and in budget. So just wanted to kind of point out that I know it's a new term and it's something that we've learned in the past few months, and wanted to give some explanation around that.
Thank you.
And why could Mr. Lucky not do all of that? I'm being somewhat facetious, but I've heard that in the community before.
There is a different route to do this. So the different route is where we're essentially the owner, construction manager at risk. We're taking care of bidding out every single piece of the project. The downside, the one upside is potentially it could be cheaper because we're not paying this construction manager. That's the one downside to this way. The way of going where we're managing all of it and accepting bids for all of it's kind of twofold. One, we're taking on the risk of any overruns. So if all the bids come in a lot higher than what they thought we were going to be, then we've got to eat it. Otherwise, building's not getting done. And kind of the second piece is we don't have the relationships with masons, with electricians, with everybody that needs to be part of the process to get this done on time, to help us in selecting all those vendors and who's going to do what. So it's really a risk factor is the big thing.
So it's like building a home. Do you want to contract with the builder or do you want to do it yourself?
That's a great way to put it.
So they'll be acting as a general contractor and then just subbing everything out.
Correct. And they'll have opportunities that if they do a part of the job, they'll have an opportunity to bid just like everybody else.
Some of these groups will have their own in-house sections of that, depending on what it is in the labor market. So the good part is it's very competitive. And that, so we'll still have the ability to go through the vendors that they pick. But there is some fear of the other method in the low bid, because you take low bid and you don't know what you're really going to get. So it gives some control on that side of the end result and just the quality of work.
Thank you.
I think
Great question.
for a project this size, I think our goal is to mitigate risk as much as possible. And using this structure sets a guaranteed maximum price, and that's where they work to stay under. So that's for us, long-term, short-term, it's a common approach to do this with projects of this size. So we're exhausting all options to make sure that we're going to stay on budget. So this is one way to do that.
We don't have a big pot of money to go and take 10, $15 million out of if there's overruns and all the bids come in over. So we need to mitigate risk as much as possible through this process.
And do we have anyone on staff that's ever built a high school?
No.
Not
Nope.
No, I made the comment the other day in a meeting, our egos aren't going to get in the way of the best project that we can put out financially and the end product. So we're going to get lots of experts in a room to come up with the best plan. That's the other side of CMR is from passage forward, you're working, the architect's working with the person that's building and coming up with what will work the best. It's not an architect drawing it and handing it to somebody and saying, good luck. So the process is a little bit different. And we'll get to play obviously a huge role in that.
How many do you expect to like come out for that? For the construction manager at risk piece?
I would say at least 3,
Okay.
at least 3.
And within the resolution, the board would be instructing Mr. Sears to pick the top 3 out of the ones that originally apply. So they'll all send us their qualifications, work they've done, their references. He's tasked with picking the top 3 who are then invited for essentially the second round, where they're getting in the weeds, they're on site, they're giving us, this is how much we're going to charge you to do this for you. And then ultimately he would make a final recommendation based on the score sheets.
There's a lot to this as we're learning, and we'll keep the board abreast. But if you ever have any questions, please let us know, because we're all learning quite a bit at a very fast rate. So we'll keep you up to speed on things that are going on. Next on there's 3 field trips, and these are 2 of them are for the firecrackers, 1 to West Lafayette.
Boy, they're up.
I knew it. I just lobbed that out there for you. One of them to Minneapolis, and then the final field trip it's actually a year in advance, so it's in the June of 25 for our band to travel to New York City for some various things. They wanted to get in front of that so they could start fundraising. So those are 3 field trips that we have for approval next week.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Sears. Next on the agenda are the discussion items regarding HR and business. This will be Assistant Superintendent Spinner and Mr. Lucky.
Thank you, President Belfram, King's Board of Education. 3 items on our agenda this evening. First is our personnel matters. This includes staff resignations, new staff members, staff miscellaneous items, supplementals and stipends, which are dominated this particular round by our spring sport supplementals. Happy to entertain any questions you may have. Item number 2 is our King's Kids Summer Camp Parent Handbook. This program is overseen by our Director of Child Care and Summer Camp Programming, Mr. Ron Corradini, and our Summer Camp Coordinator, Heather Combs. There are a couple of adjustments that are being made in this particular parent handbook. First has to do with the registration process and who is eligible to enroll based on grade and age. New process for field trips. And then also there is a summer camp fee increase to cover all expenses. So we had to increase revenue to cover expenses. Our goal is to have an ending balance close to 0. Camp remains competitive with others in the area based on our research. With that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Lucky.
Last item there, we've talked, I've worked with the Landon CSA for, feels like forever, but about 4 years. We're learning with these land opportunities. It takes a tremendous amount of time to make sure you do it right. And so you'll see there, Landon CSA reached out to me several years ago to talk about issues that they have with erosion and what they deal with in the lake. So if you've lived here long enough, you've seen that lake get drained and dredged and soil taken just north of here and spread out. And they reached out to us. There's a snippet of land on that picture that you see on the top between the creek and the roadway there. That's for us really in a floodplain and useless to us, and unless we were to spend a substantial amount and build a bridge to get to it, to get over the creek. And I have Mr. Walt Daniels coming in next week to talk in greater detail of what their plan is, but their request was to purchase basically from 50 feet from the creek on our side to the roadway to be able to armor the creek bed to prevent erosion, clean up any dead trees, debris. And then there's a new method of removing the silt from the lake that they don't have to drain the lake and create all that is expense wise and hauling wise. So Lane and CSA has been obviously it's our community. Our school is in the heart of that community. So we went through the process to see what that option looked like. Went through offering it up to other schools in the area, went to auction. They were the only one that bid on it, basically because there's really no other use for this property. So they came forward. You'll see there, this current document that is the plat that they went through the process of having surveyed and marked up. Next week, you'll see resolution and a contract available to turn this land over to them. They're ultimately appreciative of being able to do this for the cost of everybody in that area. Because you can imagine the amount of hauling to get the silt out of there. This new method, they'll actually send barges out into the water. I'm going to let Walt go knee deep into this, but I'll give you a Cliff Notes version. They will vacuum up that silt, pump it through the culvert over to this piece of property, and there's what's, I would call it a silt bag. They pump it through this bag, the water runs out back into the creek, back out into the lake, but it traps the silt in that bag. So that process, one will, apparently the smell from when they had to drain the lake before was something special. And just the cost of all the hauling, all the things. So it's a good partnership, as well as we get to capture some funds, for the value of the property. So it is what it is from a win-win standpoint for both parties on this.
So the part they're capturing, it's basically, I'm following on the map, the solid black line,
Mhm,
the numbers.
mhm. So
Okay.
it's roughly 50 feet on our side of the creek. So if you've been down through there, it's pretty steep to get down to it. So it's really unusable for us.
And a lot of trees.
A lot of trees. Part of this process is they're going to come in. Trees are a liability. They're beautiful, but they're a huge liability. They're going to come in and take down anything dead in that whole area because they're going to make a huge investment. So part of this, the request was they can't invest any HOA money into a project that they don't own. So they're going to come in and they've armored the creek further up into the neighborhood. This allows them to armor the sides of the creek so the erosion doesn't keep coming. It removes a tremendous amount of liability for us.
Is that going to encroach on the outdoor learning area that's out there?
It will not.
Okay, good.
It will not. And they're committed to keeping it as, in their words, green space, and the ability to perform this process. Because unfortunately, I don't know the exact years, but I don't know when the last time they did it was, but it's something you have to do. If you notice, if you're driving across heading this way from the school, you'll see they call it Duck Island from all the silt coming down that creek, planting itself right there on the backside and creates a problem for them.
I may be getting ahead of things, but when they move forward with all of this, would that be during the school year? And would that impact transportation?
But the nice thing about that process is the culvert's already in place. So they'll work on the other side of everything. There'll be no road closure, no,
Okay.
it's a win just to keep that many dump trucks
Yeah.
out of that area for that amount of time.
Absolutely. Any further questions for Mr. Spinner, Mr. Lucky? All right, thank you, gentlemen. Next on the agenda are the discussion items for the Assistant Superintendent regarding the educational program. So turn it over to Mrs. Martin. Mr. Freeman?
You know, I've said this before, but it's always fun to go after Matt. You never quite know what you're going to talk about. This Silt and dredging and erosion. I don't know if we can ever top what Matt's projects always are before us. Tonight, Matt's going to give a presentation quickly around teaching and learning. There's a lot of stuff going on in teaching and learning department. You know, we live in the world of our strategic initiatives, Power 5, the Culture Blueprint, personalized learning. We're in all different phases of where we're at with those. But what you're going to hear Matt talk about preschool through 12th grade. So we're going to kind of try to touch on a few things for everybody, just to give you a quick update where we are and maybe point out around some of our strategic initiatives. So Matt's done a lot of work around it.
I'm not going to talk for very long, I promise. But just want to give you just an effective update of just the cool things that that we're working on in our department, as Dana said. So we've talked a lot over the last couple of months about the high school and the career and course catalog that you approved. And we had mentioned the fact that all of that information was moving online. And so the high school administrative team completed their website of all of the information, and that went live last week for the academic fair for all of our students and teachers. And so for anyone out there that is working with their student to go through this process now, the website really is a lot more user-friendly than an electronic PDF that you used to have to scroll through, that you had to scroll through as you reviewed to approve. So the website's just more efficient, and I think the high school did a good job at kind of providing that. So just wanted to, didn't link it here at all, but if you have an opportunity, it's under the counseling page so that you can take a look at that if you have a minute. Another thing just wanted to highlight for you, I think that we've mentioned before, is our work around our ELA program of study. So we have assembled a team of English language arts teachers from every grade level. Building is represented in really kind of doing some recalibration around the English language arts standards. This is a process that needs to be done every 5 to 7 years anyway, but in light of what we've heard from our governor and legislature around the science of reading, it really became necessary for us to begin this process. So what we've done so far is engaged in a couple days of professional learning around the science of reading for primarily for our intermediate and secondary staff. You've heard me talk before about the IMSE and the intentional instruction around phonemic awareness and phonics instruction in K2. And so that's where most of this really lives. But in order for us to have a good discussion, we wanted to make sure that all of our ELA teachers participating had a good understanding of the science of reading. So we've taken some time to engage in that. And then we really started digging into the standards. So we're working on our own vertical alignment. So what does each standard look like beginning in kindergarten and moving through 12th grade? What are those skills? What are those concepts that are studied? What are the changes between grade levels? And really kind of having some discussion of what those look like in the context of King's local school district and what we want our educational experience to look like. So the standards really are the floor. You know, this is what the state requires. But in King's, you know, we hold ourselves up to a different standard and want to provide the best educational experience for our students because they deserve it. And so, you know, just kind of looking at those standards and making some decisions around what they mean for us and our students is important. So the easiest illustration of that, I'm just going to use kindergarten. If you read the kindergarten standards, it talks a lot around retelling of stories or answering questions with prompting and support. That's what the standards say. Well, what does that mean? What does prompting and support mean? you could go from district to district and get a different definition of that. So we are having some good conversation around what does that mean in a King's kindergarten classroom, so that we have equality for students and also have the same level of expectation regardless of what kindergarten classroom you're in or which elementary school you attend. So it's good conversation. The teachers are working really hard. That's an example. That is tough work. So lots of brain power in this very room used at our last meeting. And so we'll continue to work on that and show you the end result later in the semester. Then the last thing I just wanted to mention is this Friday is our last professional learning day, last PD day of the school year. So it's a day off for our students, but it's a full-on work day for all of our teachers. And so our instructional coaching staff has really taken the lead in planning this day for our teachers, and just really proud of the work that they have done to help organize lots of sessions that are very pertinent to all of our teachers. So back in the fall, late fall, they did a little survey just to kind of ask around what are some things that you want to learn about. And so all of that is represented in the offerings next Friday, this coming Friday rather, almost 30 different choice sessions for teachers to select from. And they're around topics like artificial intelligence, and personalized learning, which you'll recognize as one of our district strategic initiatives like Dana was talking about. And then really the thing I'm most proud of is how both our coaches and our teachers are living the culture blueprint that we've been talking about over the last couple of years, because these sessions are overwhelmingly led by our own staff. So we're leveraging our own expertise, teachers that are engaging now in a deep dive of personalized learning to figure out what that is and what does it look like in classrooms. Whenever you talk to teachers about things like that, that's what they want to know. Okay, I get kind of the concept, but what does it look like with a group of students in my room? And so the sessions that teachers will be leading, they are not necessarily experts, but they have tried. They have learned about these different strategies themselves, tried them in the classrooms, and they are willing to share their efforts with other staff. So we're very excited and proud of these teachers who have stepped out. And it's going to be a great day. I feel like I could go on and on, but I won't, unless you have questions, which we'd be happy to entertain.
So will all of the teachers be at the high school?
Yes, yes, yes. So this is kind of a split day. So the morning is all district planned in these different sessions that we were mentioning, and most of them are at the high school. We've got a few right over the bridge happening in the junior high, so we can use their big whiteboard space rooms for some math work that's going to happen. Yeah, and then the afternoon is all self-directed for teachers. So we encourage them, of course, to take what they've learned in the morning and kind of continue that. Time is always the enemy. So take that time to take what you've learned in the morning and put it into practice. Something new that we're trying for the first time is a strategies gallery. I got to talk about that. That's my favorite, one of my favorite things. So it's really a simple thing. It's a Padlet that the coaches have put together, which is just a way to capture information electronically. But they've put together just a lot of different topics, like discussion strategies, for example. They're so, we always want to engage our students in critical thinking. Think of the Power Five here: critical thinking, communication, collaboration. Well, what are some new strategies that we might try? So the strategies gallery is just kind of illustrations of ways that teachers can engage in that. So we're going to set up some space in the high school where groups of teachers can come in. You can come in individually. Groups of teachers can work together to figure out how to put these strategies into place in the classroom to make it more engaging and fun, and ultimately to yield better learning for students. So we're excited. It's great.
Piggyback on a couple things, Matt, and I'm just going to chime in just so and I'll say it a little bit differently than what you said. But this is really, really good work coming from our teaching and learning department, with Matt and Dana's leadership and our coaches as well. I think you're starting to see a little bit of the fruit of the labor that we've been working on over the last couple of years. But it's really, when you look at the program of study for English language arts, that's what high performing, high functioning districts do on a routine basis. This is focusing on the what we do. It's really around, analyzing, are we teaching the right things in the right way to kids based on what King's expects? Matt said something, and I've said this before as well, that the state curriculum that they provide us is it's a baseline. It is not King's. Where our work is to drive that for what's best for our kids. It's usually the floor for us. And so how do we ensure that we're teaching standards to a high level all the way across the district and aligning that? Because what you might teach to mastery in one grade level, what we might be doing now, you might actually not teach it to mastery until 2 grade levels later. So it's that articulation is so important to make sure we're teaching the right stuff. And then to piggyback it with our PD work, that's teachers refining their craft. That's the how. We want to personalize instruction. We want to emphasize Power 5 skills of communication, collaboration, problem solving, critical thinking, and career readiness. And we want to do this through our culture blueprint that empowers our teachers to be leaders in our district. And when you look at a lot of the teachers on there, these are folks that not all of them have taken leadership roles in the past. But we're basically hosting our own in-house AI conference that is incredible for our staff. Capitalizing on the expertise of the folks that we have, it's phenomenal work. And this is just kickstarting some of the great work we've been doing. And our teaching and learning department's is really taking the lead on a lot of that. So kudos to you guys. We're excited about, if you're able to stop by Friday and you want to come into any sessions and learn about prompt engineering or AI or using different tools and different things, we're more than welcome to do that. It's going to be pretty exciting, but this is this is moving our strategic initiatives forward, and really just cutting edge futuristic stuff for our kids. I think the outcomes are going to be incredible. So thanks, appreciate it. But I just wanted to put a little bit of substance behind that. So thanks.
Any questions? Mr. Freeman?
No, but
Mrs.
thank you
Mark?
for all the work that.
Yeah,
everyone's putting
absolutely.
Into that, because I know that's a major undertaking.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. All right, moving forward. Oh, we have items presented by the board. We have anything? Oh, I did have one thing. I don't know if I should do a public meeting, but I'll do it now. I just wanted to mention King's community lost a good man a couple weeks ago. Some of you may or may not have known Tom Squires, his wife Angie, sons Nick and Devin are alums, Kings. So, keep them in your thoughts. It's a good guy, very much involved in Kings football, Kings Red Helmet youth organization, and once a night, always a night. So I just wanted to mention it. Did we have anything else that? All right. Well, with that, may I have a motion to adjourn this evening's meeting?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second the motion.
Mr. Morrow?
Ms. Phillips,
Yes.
Ms. Groff,
Yes.
Mr. Skrull,
Yes.
Mr. Belfron.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.